In this video, we're going to talk about strange Australian laws and surprising things that are forbidden or illegal in this country that may surprise you depending on where you're from. So if you're planning to move to Australia or you're new to this country, I highly recommend watching this video so you're aware of what you're not legally allowed to do. So if you're interested, keep watching. The first law that really surprised me the first time I heard about it is that it's actually illegal to be in possession of more than 50 kilograms of potatoes. According to my research, in Western Australia, it is against the law to possess more than 50 kilograms of potatoes unless you're a commercial seller. And apparently this law dates back to the 1940s when there were concerns about protecting local potato growers. And if they catch you holding more than 50 kilograms of potatoes, you can actually get fined up to 2,000 Australian dollars. And not only this, in addition to the fines, they're also going to charge you up to twice the value of the potatoes. This is a crazy law. If you have a bit more knowledge about this, or if you want to tell us about the history of this, please leave a comment below. It's interesting. I have never heard of a country actually having laws around holding potatoes. The second law in our list is driving with a pet in your lap. And of course, this makes sense, right? Because it is potentially harmful for the animal. It's dangerous for yourself as well because it can block your view. If you stop suddenly, the animal will fly through the windshield. Of course, it does make sense, but it is interesting that it's actually a law. So if you have a pet, make sure that you don't have them on your lap. I'm not sure what other countries have this, probably many, but yeah, it's just surprising. And you may want to know that breaking this law can actually get you a fine of up to 200 Australian dollars plus a few demerit points. So be very careful. If you have a pet, don't put it in your lap. It can cause you a lot of trouble. Another law that really surprised me is the fact that it is illegal to offer a reward, no questions asked, for the return of stolen property. So basically, if you lost a pet, again, or if you lost something, it is illegal for you to say, please return the object or the pet back and I'll give you a reward, or I'll pay you something, or I won't ask any questions about it. Because this basically means that you are letting someone to get away with something, or you're letting a thief off the hook. And based on my research, this law is mainly in South Australia and Tasmania. I'm not sure about other states. Let me know in the comments below if you know more about this. And also the fines can go up to 500 Australian dollars. So be careful if you lose something, or if you're trying to get something back when you're advertising this, because you can get in a lot of trouble. Another law that really surprised me is the fact that you can't set off fireworks on your own. It is forbidden to actually have private displays of fireworks, and the fines can go up to 50,000 Australian dollars. The only people who are exempt from this law are licensed pyrotechnicians. So for example, if in New Year's Eve you want to set off your own fireworks, that's forbidden. And this really surprised me because in my country, everyone gets fireworks and you can do it in your home. So yeah, it's very interesting. There is one exception. I think it is in the Northern Territory. Fireworks are only allowed to be sold and set off on Territory Day, which takes place on the 1st of July. So I think this is the only state and the only period where people are actually allowed to set off their own fireworks. Otherwise, don't do it. You're going to get in a lot of trouble. And if you're from another country, let me know what are the laws around fireworks there. Another law that surprised me, but it does make sense, is the fact that it's actually forbidden to sing obscene songs in public or even swear in public. And of course, it does make sense. No one likes someone insulting on the street or in public. But I don't think it is illegal in my country. Perhaps it should be. But it is interesting that this is actually an offense and you can get fined for doing so. And another funny thing within this law is that streaking across a sporting field during a sports event is also considered an offense. It can also include singing a rude song or a song that has insulting language. I don't know if this is actually applied, because I've seen perhaps strikes or protests on the street and perhaps people swearing, etc., and nothing happens. Yeah, I'm not sure how it works in that sense, but yeah, if you have more information, leave a comment below. I don't know if it's a law that surprises you. Yeah, let me know. Another law that may surprise you or not is the fact that in many Australian states, it's actually forbidden to eat or drink while you're driving. And when I say drink, it's like even drinking a bottle of water while driving. The underlying reason for this is that this law is trying to prevent distraction distractions, basically people getting distracted when they're behind the wheel. And apparently the fines for doing this can go up to 300 Australian dollars. So next time you're driving, make sure that you're not eating anything just to not get in trouble. Another law in this list, and this may really surprise you, is the fact that it is illegal to disrupt a wedding or a funeral. Apparently this law is mainly in South Australia. So if you were thinking of disrupting a wedding or a funeral for whatever reason, something that it is crazy to think twice, because you may get fined up to 10,000 Australian dollars or even 2 years of imprisonment. This is crazy, the fact that there is a law about that. Yeah, it's just a crazy law, but I guess it makes sense. I don't know, let me know in the comments below. Another surprising Australian law is that it is forbidden to publish fake news. This is specifically in the state of Queensland. So basically this law states that it is forbidden for a person to publish any advertisement on the television, radio, or on the internet, fake news that state that a child has been born when they haven't, or a person who is still living has died, or advertising a funeral for someone who is still living, or that a particular couple is getting married when they're not, and you can actually get up to 6 months of jail if you do this. I don't know who would do that. It's weird. It may happen, I guess, if it's in the law. Let me know if in the comments if you have anything to say about this. It's interesting. Another law that really surprised me, but when I think about it, it does make sense, is the fact that solariums or tanning beds here in Australia are forbidden. And this law, I think, came into effect in 2015. And this is basically because tanning beds actually increase the likelihood of getting skin cancer, especially already Australians are exposed to high UV levels. So it does make sense, although I do think it's still allowed for private use. But yeah, it's interesting. In my country, tanning beds, from what I remember, they're still allowed. If you're from a different country, let us know what's the case. Yeah, it's interesting, and I was actually very surprised by the fact that tanning beds are not allowed here in Australia. Another law that's very surprising, and I've mentioned this in other videos, is the fact that you can get very hefty fines for putting your feet on public transport seats. And again, I do think that this is common sense. It's not polite to put your dirty feet on the public transport seat where other people are going to sit. But it did surprise me because I hadn't seen in other parts of the world this being something that's an offense and where you can actually get fined for it. And if you're wondering, these fines can go up to 288 Australian dollars. So yeah, be careful about it. I know many people, perhaps they are tired and they do it unintentionally. And I've actually seen it happening. I've seen people putting the feet and the inspector coming and actually trying to find them. It's interesting. Another thing that really surprised me is the fact that it's forbidden to fish without a license. Of course, as I said before, this will vary according to the state where you are living in, so make sure you read the laws first. But for example, in New South Wales or in Victoria, you do need a license for recreational fishing or to pay a fee. And if you don't pay this fee, basically this is considered an offense. And in specific areas, depending on where you're fishing, there are also limits in terms of the amount of fish that you can take, for example. It's very, very interesting. And apparently the purpose of these laws, of these rules, is for conservation and maintaining the overall health of Australia's aquatic ecosystems. So yeah, it's very interesting because in my country, I don't think you need a license for recreational fishing. At least when I was a kid, I would go with my dad fishing and I don't think he needed a license for doing that. So yeah, it's interesting, but I do think that it does make a lot of sense. And another thing that really surprised me, and I really like this law, is everything that relates to noise violations. Again, this will vary according to the state where you're living in. But for example, here in the state of Victoria, we have the Environment Protection Act, which states that it is an offense to make excessive noise in specific time periods. So for example, before 10 a.m. or after 10 p.m., you can't use your vacuum cleaner, or you can't turn the aircon on, or you can't use power tools. So yeah, it's interesting because again, I don't think that's the case in my country. Let me know if it's common in yours. And I guess I love it because it kind of shows a culture of respect for others, your neighbors. Yeah, it's something that I do appreciate a lot. Another law or offense that caught my attention is the fact that it is forbidden to have your dog unleashed in public areas. So basically, if you're walking your dog down the street or you go to a park, you can only have him off leash in specific designated areas. So you may come across, and this is very common here in Australia, dedicated dog parks. In these instances, you can have your dog off leash, but otherwise you do have to put a lead on your dog. And the reason for this, of course, again, it's common sense, I guess, is that if you have a dog off leash, they may attack other dogs or even native species as well. So basically, it's a measure that tries to protect, again, the environment where we're living and our ecosystems, etc. So if you have a pet when you're here in Australia, highly recommend following the rules depending on the state where you're living in. Another law that surprised me relates to drinking alcohol on the beach. And this is because most beaches here in Australia are actually alcohol-free zones, meaning that you can get in real trouble if you are at the beach drinking a bottle of wine and a cop catches you doing so. Again, these laws will vary according to the state where you're living in or even your local council. So I highly recommend reading the signs at the beach so you're aware of what you're allowed to do and what you are not allowed to do. For example, according to my research, it is an offense in Western Australia for people of any age to drink alcohol in public. And this includes the street, the park or the beach. You can actually get fined up to 200 Australian dollars. So again, be mindful of this and be aware of the laws in your area. So yeah, these are all the Australian laws that really surprised me when I heard of them, because many of the things are perhaps a bit unusual, but when you think about it, they do make a lot of sense. Yeah, it's interesting. And I hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, please like and subscribe to keep supporting the channel so I can keep bringing more content for you. I'll see you next time. Bye.